BTB listeners, thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Listen, if this episode inspires you, do me a favor, take 5 seconds to shoot me a like and subscribe to the podcast. There are several more exciting guests that are in the pipeline, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued support, and let's keep paying the mission forward.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby.
Welcome to the BTB Project, designed to empower listeners to identify their why and to live their best lives no matter the circumstances. My name is Kollman Gearhart, a former athlete and motivational coach. I've had the opportunity to inspire thousands through my story and help accomplish what they are built to be. You'll be encouraged by each and every episode, and let's get into it.
Yeah, when I blow up, I'ma soar high like Peter Pan. In real life, be living out my dreams. If I'm waking up, it's in a foreign land.
In today's BTB short, I want to walk through something that I experienced over the last couple of weeks, and it's around perspective. And I've been able, through my experience as a dad, to get to travel a lot in the United States with my son as he's pursuing his running career. And there we were on a flight from Denver, Colorado to New York. And it was the first time that I've ever been able to experience the city. When I was there, being a Colorado native, there was a lot of light bulb moments for me to where I realized how different New York is compared to a Colorado. And it's something that I think is going to be enlightening for you as the listener, because our ability to maintain perspective in any aspect of our life is really important for not just goal setting, staying present every day, tapping into gratitude, being able to be thankful for what we have, because sometimes when we feel like we're lacking something in our life, it's easy to get distracted and not remember where we've come from, in some cases, how good we have it. So one of the most critical aspects of our lives, again, is perspective. When I spent some time in the vibrant city of New York, I've come to realize the profound importance of seeing things from different angles, not just through my own lens. And in that mindset of the hustle and bustle of the New York life, it's evident that there's a perspective that they have that is much different than maybe what I have. Something that I thought I was tapping into, but it's an important concept to think about as a way of life. Let's understand the meaning of perspective first. What is it? Perspective isn't just about what we see, it's about what we interpret when we see it. Something that I perceive and what you might perceive as the listener could be looking at the same exact thing, but we could have two completely different perspectives. I remember seeing an illustration one time of two people standing facing each other, and directly underneath them by their feet was the number 6. So one person who's looking down at that number looks down and sees it as a 6. But the other person on the other side, when they look down at the number, because they're on the other side and they're looking at the number upside down, it appears to be a 9. So at that point, you would ask yourself, from a perspective, what is the number? It could be the same number. It could be a different number, depending on your perspective. And it's through that lens of which we view not only that scenario that I laid out, but the world. And it shapes us by our experiences, beliefs, cultural backgrounds. And understanding this helps us approach what diversity looks like and what viewpoints look like, and how important it is to understand that people are going to have different viewpoints and how much it is different throughout our society. So, why is it critical to see things differently? That's because it opens our minds to new possibilities and solutions. When we're stuck in a narrow perspective, we limit ourselves and hinder our growth, and we're not able to see opportunities and go after goals and ambitions the same that we would if we just had this fixed, narrow focus. We limit ourselves and hinder our growth. But by embracing diverse perspectives, we expand our horizons and we become more adaptable in an ever changing world. New York is much different than Colorado. And my perspective on what I thought was a grind and what I thought was hard work and what I thought was facing adversity or difficult circumstances, I was watching these people in New York and how they live. And it made me think of some key topics and tips that I want to walk through that I think is important when it comes to understanding the power of perspective. The first thing that comes to mind, my hotel was in Bronx, New York, and Bronx is sometimes not painted as the nicest part of town, but being able to be around the people, be around the hotel that I stayed in, walking around that community, the first thing that it made me think about with perspective was I need to stop complaining. Complaining only reinforces a negative mindset. And instead of dwelling on what's wrong, I need to do a better job of focusing on finding solutions and opportunities for growth. I think about some of the bad days that I've had recently in Colorado and some of the challenges that I've had, personal life, work, identity, all these different things. And sometimes I play the sad small fiddle. I'm just sitting there and I'm playing this music of sadness and not being grateful and complaining. Perspective wise, there's so many people in New York that are trying to fight for their families, are trying to fight for their next meal, trying to stay out of poverty, trying to stay safe on the streets. Their walk to work is a whole lot different than the walk that I take my daughter around the loop of our neighborhood, or being able to drive down the street to, teach tennis and, you know, going after the ability to have these opportunities to where it's just a much different situation that I need to be grateful for. That leads me to really need to stop complaining. As I'm saying that to you as the listener, what do you have that you need to stop complaining about? What are some things that you consider hard days or hard circumstances that might not be that hard? And from there, find what makes you happy. Seek out activities and experiences that bring you joy and fulfillment in your life. Because by focusing on the positive aspects of your life, you can shift your perspective towards gratitude and appreciation. While I was in New York, I was walking around and I saw some people that were facing some tough circumstances. I don't know exactly what was going on in the entirety of their life, but you could tell that they were struggling. But then I also saw a lot of people that could easily be perceived the same way, that were big old smile on their face, walking their pets, being outside and grateful from walking out of their apartment complex, being able to look at situations in a way that allows them to have that gratitude and thankfulness. So if they're able to find what makes them happy, why can't you and I do the same and have that appreciation, show that gratitude on a continuous basis? And it's only sometimes when we get out of our own environment and into a different environment where we see that perspective. Sometimes we see perspective in a completely different direction, and that's social media. My interpretation of New York was a lot of the stuff that I see online and Manhattan and kind of maybe some of the nicer spots of New York that I wasn't in on this particular trip. But I had that interpretation when I flew in and saw the city and saw the Statue of Liberty. I'm like, this is going to be really cool. The Big Apple. Then by the time we got into the Uber and got towards the area of town where my son was racing, where I was staying, he was staying in Jersey. So getting him over to Jersey and seeing just a totally different side and perspective that I didn't see on social media. But social media can be, as we all know, a breeding ground for negativity and polarization. I had this image of what New York I thought was, but the reality is there's human beings just like I am. A New Yorker's just like me, trying to make it each and every day, trying to be their best. But be mindful of the content that you're consuming and engaging with. Just because I had that perspective from social media doesn't mean that's what the reality is actually being in the situation. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with positivity and constructive dialogue. Notice the first three pieces of this base off of understanding perspective better. That sometimes we complain too much. We don't spend enough time being grateful and finding gratitude in what makes us happy. If we're trying to find those types of things through the comparison game and using social media, that's a quick way to falter us back into what isn't reality. And that's why being able to walk around New York laid so much important perspective. And one thing I saw too as I was walking around that city was just the way that the population keeps their head up. In New York, it is the city that never sleeps, right? And watching them in the face of their challenges maintain a positive outlook. The ones that I saw that just had a smile on their face and were happy and grateful for what they had. That's what allows them to keep moving forward. And yes, adversity is a part of life, but it's how we choose to respond to it is what's within our control. And having that perspective of taking any sort of adversity and difficult circumstance and being the narrator of the outcome because of how we're focusing on it and how we're interpreting it and where our perspective lies can shift the outcome of a situation pretty quickly. With that, it also includes change negative perspective from the inside out. I had an interpretation of what I thought New York was going to be. But then as I walked through that city and saw what I saw, it literally changed my perspective in an instance. Work on reframing negative thoughts and beliefs. Challenge yourself to see the silver lining in every situation in your life. Focus on growth rather than setbacks. There are people walking around the streets that might not even have a home, might not have a warm place to stay. It was snowing and raining profusely when I was out there. You're telling me that a cold, humid day in New York is, I mean, that makes any cold, rainy day in Colorado seem like it's not so bad. That's why it's important for us as a BTB community to focus on what matters. Whatever the values or priorities are in your life, align it with your actions accordingly. When we focus on what truly matters, all your trivial concerns fade into the background. 95% of the things that we worry about in our minds are things that never actually happen. We spend so much time immersed in those negative thoughts or potential outcomes that don't actually ever happen. So focus on what matters. Saw a lot of New Yorkers that were always focusing on what matters to their life. It could be their next meal, could be their being there for their family, working their business right on the streets of New York, could be a small business, thrift shop. Those people had the biggest smiles on their faces as they were doing the simplest things because they were focused on what matters the most. Lastly, we got to focus on the needs of others. Yes, I'm a family man. And being able to practice empathy and compassion towards others, whether it's someone that you meet on the streets or the people that you live in your household, immediate family, being able to shift your perspective from self centeredness to a broader understanding of the world by helping others, you not only make a positive impact, but you gain a deeper appreciation for interconnectedness of humanity. Even though I was spending time in New York and felt like, man, this is totally different than anything I've ever experienced. We are all human beings. We are all coming from a very similar perspective. And it's perspective that is not just a way of seeing, it's a way of being. And by embracing diverse viewpoints and adapting a positive mindset, we can navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. As a BTB community, let's strive to cultivate a perspective that uplifts ourselves and those around us, making the world a brighter place and more inclusive place for each and every one of us. New York will always be a place where I have an immense amount of respect. Those people know how to work. Those peoples have a tremendous amount of gratitude. And my perspective changed in an instance, not only stepping grounds in the Big Apple, but being able to take that back with me into my own situation, into my own life, and focus on those 8 key important perspective elements that allow me to maximize and become the strongest version of myself. So remember, stop complaining. Find what makes you happy. Reduce that social media and find the perspective, not just from someone else's life, but what's going on around you every day. Keep your head up. Change negative perspective from the inside out. It starts with your alignment before taking care of somebody else. Stay away from that negativity. Focus on what matters and focus on the needs of others. Listen, if this BTB short about perspective was something that impacted you, do me a favor, like and subscribe to the BTB project. Better yet, send this message to a family member, friend, or colleague and tell them why it impacted you. It's these types of messages of understanding perspective and getting our own internal alignment that allow us as a community to do things that we never thought we can do. As always, I'm proud of each and every one of you. And until next time, take care.